All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into a piece of history that's, well, it's almost iconic, the Zapruder film. And you guys, our listeners, you've sent over some pretty amazing
Yeah,
stuff.
some really fascinating material.
We've got excerpts from Fair Play magazine,
Published back in 97.
right, 97, along with, well, reader feedback and even a transcript from a meeting, a pretty important meeting, actually.
The Assassination Records Review Board. The ARRB.
Right, the ARRB. So, are you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so the Zapruder film. Most people have probably heard of it, seen it maybe, but what makes it so important?
Well, it's more than just, some home movie. It accidentally captured the assassination of President Kennedy,
Wow.
which makes it, it's a central piece of evidence in one of the most scrutinized events in history, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, you can imagine that led to, well, a pretty big debate.
Oh, yeah?
Who did the film belong to?
Right. The Zapruder family.
Yes.
Who shot it? Or the U.S. government because of, well, its historical significance.
Exactly. So that's where the Assassination Records Review Board comes in.
The ARRB. Yeah.
They had to figure out, well, did this home movie, did it fall under the JFK Act of 1992?
Which basically said any quote-unquote assassination record should go to the National Archives.
Okay, so was a home movie considered an assassination record?
Well, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The law, it was kind of vague on whether, giving the film to the archives, which the Zapruder family had already done, did that mean giving up ownership
Hmm.
forever?
Hmm.
And that's where the arguments get really interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So speaking of arguments, we've got some expert opinions in these sources.
Oh, we do. From legal scholars, historians, photo analysts.
Right. There's a professor, Bronice, I think?
Professor Branes, yes.
Yeah.
He pointed out that the film already being at the archives, it kind of made things complicated.
How so?
Well, had the government really, and I'm using their wording here, taken possession,
Hmm.
even though it was, initially given willingly.
Ah, I see.
He also questioned, would a high quality copy be enough for researchers, compared to having the original film?
That's a great point. I mean, what if there are things like little details hidden in the original that we just haven't been able to, see yet?
Precisely. What secrets could, say, future technology unlock?
Right, right. And then we have Jim Lazar. He kind of presented a different side to this whole thing.
Yes, Jim Lazard. He argued that for the public to really understand and maybe even trust the investigation, the film had to be considered a national record.
So not just the Zapruder family's property, but something that belonged to everyone.
Exactly. He really believed that Congress, back when they made the JFK Act, always intended for this film, the Zapruder film, to be included, even if it wasn't, specifically spelled out.
But then he brought up something else that's, well, kind of thought-provoking. What about the money?
The monetary value for the Zapruder family, right?
Yeah. What happens to that if the government says, hey, this is ours now?
Yeah, it's a tough question, trying to put a price tag on a piece of history like this.
It really is. And then there's Josiah Thompson. He adds a really personal, I guess, angle to all of this.
He did. He actually had some experience with the film back when it was with Life magazine.
And his story is pretty wild.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
He basically had to sneak a copy to make sure that the film was preserved.
Wow.
It really makes you think about how important it is to make sure these records are taken care of and that people can see them.
Public access.
Exactly. I mean, his experience raises some concerns about, what could happen if something like this stays in private hands? Could it be, I don't know, manipulated, lost?
Yeah, yeah.
He was really advocating for government ownership
Yeah.
to, guarantee that the film would be safe and accessible for, research, especially with technology, constantly changing.
I mean, think about what we can do with film now compared to like back in the 60s.
Incredible.
And he even said, I remember reading this, he basically said taxpayers shouldn't have to pay like a huge amount of money for something that, should belong to the nation.
It's a powerful statement. It speaks to the idea that, some things are bigger than private ownership.
Right. And it's a theme we see, well, it comes up again and again in these sources.
It does. This idea that, the film's historical importance, it goes beyond, just money.
It's priceless almost.
In a way, yes. And other experts, they echo that same sentiment. For example, we have Moses Weitzman. He's a photographic expert.
Okay.
And he really stressed the unique value of the original film.
So not just any copy would do.
Right. He argued that even the best copies, the highest quality, they might miss things, tiny details,
Like what?
shadows, flickers of movement, things that, could be important for future analysis,
Yeah.
especially as technology keeps getting better.
Right, right. And then there was Richard Trask, a historian.
Yes, Richard Trask.
Yeah.
He really emphasized how original photos, they're always superior, especially in a case like this,
Yeah.
where, I mean, every single frame is going to be scrutinized.
I mean, we are talking about the assassination of a president.
Right. People are going to pore over every detail, looking for clues, trying to figure out what happened.
And then there's Professor Simon. He had a really interesting take.
Professor Simon, he proposed that the film should be seen as a national relic,
Yeah.
almost like, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution,
Wow.
priceless, and belonging to the nation, the whole nation.
So we've got this legal battle going on, these expert opinions. But what about the public? What were they thinking about all this?
Well, that's where the Fair Play magazine excerpts get really fascinating.
They actually included reader feedback.
They did. It gives us a glimpse into, well, the range of opinions
Mm.
about the assassination, the Zapruder film's role.
And the different theories, right?
Oh, definitely. You see people debating its significance, talking about conspiracy theories, dissecting, what figures like the Warren Commission, researchers, journalists, what role they played in all of this.
Well, Warren Commission, that was the official investigation, right?
Right. The government's investigation.
It just goes to show that even decades later, this event, the JFK assassination, the Zapruder film, it still has this hold on people.
It does. It's like this open wound in the American psyche. And the debates around, who owns the film, how we interpret it, even how accessible it should be, it reflects these deeper questions.
Yeah.
About, truth and transparency and accountability. So what stands out to you from all of this? What are your initial thoughts on this whole ownership debate and the significance of the Zapruder film?
Well, it's clear to me that this wasn't some simple, open and shut case. The legal back and forth, the public's reaction, the expert opinions, it all paints a picture of just how deeply intertwined this film is with history, with the law, with how we, understand what's true. But what about the content of the film itself? What does it actually show?
Well, that's where things get even more intriguing. Dr. Paul Peters, he provides some firsthand insights into the scene at Parkland Hospital when President Kennedy arrived.
Yeah.
And his observations about the head wound.
Yeah.
And what he saw later in the autopsy photos. Well, it really fuels the controversy.
Well, hold on. So the film, it becomes national property, but there are still questions about what actually happened.
Oh, there are definitely questions. In fact, some of these firsthand accounts, they directly challenge the official narrative.
This is where things get really interesting for me. Dr. Peters talking about, conflating information and the president's brain missing. It's like a puzzle where some pieces are just gone and others just don't fit.
It really raises questions about, well, have we gotten the whole story about the assassination? It reminds us that with something like this, so complex, so controversial, you have to look at everything, question everything.
So how does this all connect back to the film, the Zapruder film? We've got this legal battle, expert opinions, and then, well, these firsthand accounts that seem to, contradict the official story. It's a lot.
That's the thing. The Zapruder film is more than just evidence. It's a symbol. It's a symbol of a nation dealing with trauma. And the debates, who owns it, how do we understand it, even how accessible it should be. It all reflects deeper questions about transparency, accountability, what we even consider truth, historical truth.
And speaking of access, the ARB decided to declare the film an assassination record.
Right.
Didn't that change how people could actually interact with it, see it?
Oh, absolutely. That was a huge turning point. It allowed for the film to be, well, widely available. It's part of the National Archives now. High-quality copies, accessible to researchers, historians, anyone who's interested.
It makes you think, what if it had stayed in private hands? Would we even be having these conversations, these debates? If it wasn't so, well, easy to get a hold of.
It's an interesting thought. Having the film so readily available has definitely kept the public interested, kept the scrutiny on the assassination. People can form their own opinions, analyze it frame by frame, question the official narrative. It's a much more, you could say, democratic process.
And technology, it keeps evolving. Who knows what we might learn from this film in the future? I mean, we've been looking at it for decades, and new details keep popping up, new perspectives.
That's what makes history so exciting. It's an ongoing process. As technology gets better, we get new tools. Imagine what future generations might discover from the original Zapruder film.
It's almost mind-boggling. enhance the image even further, revealing details we just can't see now? Could we use, I don't know, AI to analyze every movement in the film, maybe uncover new insights? What do you think?
Those are some fantastic questions. The possibilities are, well, pretty exciting. It's like the film becomes a living document, constantly evolving as we get better at understanding it.
So we're being reminded that history isn't static, it's dynamic, a process of discovery and reinterpretation, and the Zapruder film, right at the heart of it. It's challenging us to confront some uncomfortable things, to question what we think we know, and to keep searching for answers.
It really emphasizes that history isn't just facts and dates. It's a living story. It shapes how we understand the world.
And it makes you wonder what other historical mysteries are waiting to be unlocked. As technology keeps advancing, we find new ways to analyze.
Exactly. The Zapruder film is a perfect example. It shows how technology can breathe new life into history, offer new perspectives on events that have shaped, well, everything.
It's like we've been given this key to unlock these new doors.
And that's what makes this whole deep dive so compelling. It's not about, rehashing the same arguments or finding one single truth. It's about, well, embracing the complexity, the ambiguity, the fact that we're still searching for answers. The Zapruder film, it represents the core of historical inquiry, trying to find meaning when the evidence is incomplete and there are all these different perspectives.
It's a journey, and each new piece of information, every new interpretation just adds another layer to this tapestry, this historical tapestry.
You put it perfectly. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the Zapruder film, its legacy, it's important to remember, this isn't the end. The conversation keeps going. We keep discovering things. We challenge old ideas. And that search for understanding continues.
History isn't something that just happened to other people. It shapes us. It influences our future. And each of us, we play a role in that conversation.
Exactly. By looking at these primary sources, questioning the evidence, considering different perspectives, we become active participants in understanding the past. And that's the power of this deep dive.
So to our listener, keep exploring the Kennedy assassination, the Zapruder film. There's so much information out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to challenge things, to come to your own conclusions. After all, history belongs to all of us.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to uncover the next piece of this puzzle, the one to shed new light on this mystery.
Until next time, keep diving deep, keep asking those tough questions. We'll see you on our next adventure.
It really is incredible. One short home movie, you'd think it'd be, I don't know, simple. But it sparked so much debate, intrigue for decades. And it's still shaping how we understand, this huge turning point in history.
It really shows you the power of going back to the source, right? The raw footage, the unfiltered evidence, and then you can kind of draw your own conclusions. It makes studying history so interesting.
It's like, you're a detective. You're piecing together clues and trying to solve this big mystery. And with the Zapruder film, there are so many layers. The legal battle, what it shows, the debate about what happened. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But that's what's so fascinating. We're still asking these questions. We're still searching for answers. It shows that history isn't this fixed thing in the past. It's alive. It changes. And we all contribute to that.
In the Zapruder film, it kind of embodies that evolution. As technology gets better, we find new evidence, we re-examine things. Our understanding of it keeps changing too.
Yeah, it reminds us that searching for the truth about the past, it never really ends. There's always something new to learn, something else to uncover, and more to debate, which is a good thing.
For sure. It keeps us engaged, keeps us thinking, keeps us from, getting too comfortable with what we think we know about the past.
Exactly. So to everyone listening, we encourage you, keep exploring the Kennedy assassination, the Zapruder film. There's so much information out there. Read different accounts, come to your own conclusions.
Yeah, don't be afraid to challenge what's been said. Explore different theories. Ask the tough questions.
Because history is an ongoing conversation. And your voice matters. Your perspective matters. You're part of that conversation.
And who knows? Maybe you'll find a new piece of the puzzle. Maybe you'll be the one to shed some new light on this mystery.
Until then, keep diving deep. Never stop asking questions.
We'll see you on our next deep dive adventure into history.